Hi guys, so like you, I like scrolling through YouTube, seeing what other people are making and what they're doing and how they're painting stuff. And there's one sort of guy that I've seen pop up quite a few times, so I went over and had a little look at what he does. And that person is Dark Souls Models. And he does a lot of Soulsborne stuff, so that's like Elden Ring and Bloodborne and all that kind of stuff. Something I've never really heard of prior to, well, looking at his channel. But as you can see, yeah, some awesome painted miniatures and some great terrain diorama sort of stuff. So, obviously, after looking at quite a few of his videos, I thought, well, let's reach out and see if we can do some sort of collaboration. So I left a comment on one of his videos, and yeah, we had a few chats via email, and then we set up a little Zoom call to work out, well, exactly what it was we were going to have a go at building.
Hello John, it is John to John, two Johns. You reached out to do a collaboration.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun for us to have a go at building the same diorama.
You haven't played any Souls games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring.
No, I'd never even heard of the games other than obviously the bits and pieces I've seen on your channel.
So the one that I was looking at doing and I've wanted to do for quite some time was the Mountaintop of Giants, which is this humongous, snowy, cliffy part of the game.
Yeah, that looks great, as I've always wanted to go at making a snowy sort of themed diorama, as I've never made anything with snow. So that'd be great.
I set a sort of 3-day deadline, a sort of A4 size, and I've sent you a couple of STLs, one being the walking mausoleum. I've also sent you the really creepy spider-like hands and some of the like four-armed skeletons that you've got. Good luck with it, and let's schedule another meeting once we've got it done.
Yeah, cheers John, I can't wait to see what we both come up with. See you again in a few days. So having a brief to work to is pretty cool, as sometimes I do kind of run out of ideas of what to make. So starting with this, as there are some elements I need to get involved, I'm going to do a rather amazing drawing here. You'll be quite impressed with my artistic skills, or certainly the lack of them here. Generally, if I copy something, I can copy something to a T. But give me a blank piece of paper and a pen, and yeah, I draw like a 5-year-old. So I had a cunning plan for my little diorama, and that is I wanted to build it inside a photo frame. Something I did last week, I believe. And yeah, I like the idea so much, I'm going to do it again, as obviously I can 3D print my own sort of size photo frames. So inside this photo frame, I'm going to obviously build like a rocky, mountainy kind of thing. But I want to have the entrance or the opening of, I don't know if it's going to be like a tomb, a dungeon, or even kind of like a church, I guess. But yeah, definitely some big old doors in like a cutaway inside the mountain. But then I had this wonderful idea that the skeleton, I kind of wanted to encase him in some ice. So I'm going to have like, well, possibly like the opening of a cave. But yeah, the skeleton frozen in ice. So they're on sort of one mountain. And then behind them, I'm going to have another mountain. And the reason for having the mountain in the distance is I'm going to stick the mausoleum on there. Obviously, the mausoleum is meant to be absolutely huge, but obviously the size of the scale diorama I'm doing, yeah, I would need, well, a ton of room. And then the hand sort of spidery thing coming over the top. And yeah, looks wonderful. Right, let's get cracking and start building this thing. As I really like the photo frame that I built and 3D printed last time, I thought I'd definitely make some more. So yeah, I printed off 3 lots here, but obviously only going to use the one. And then yeah, the whole box 3D printed. And I know guys, some of you might be saying, why don't just get some little sheets of MDF and it'll be a lot quicker, cheaper and all the rest. But I don't have any MDF. I do have a lot of resin and I have a 3D printer. So yeah, I'm going to 3D print boxes to make little photo dioramas in, which I think is a pretty cool way of, well, displaying something, as it can sit on my desk or I can mount it on a wall, which is pretty cool. So I wonder how the other John is, well, going to start off his base.
Now, with our base cut to size, we need to start marking out where things are going to sit. This coffee is about the same size as I want the mausoleum to be, so I'll draw around it to mark out where it'll go. Then just draw a haphazard wobbly line to mark out where the cliffs will be. I don't have any specific shapes of foam to build into a curved cliff, but what I do have is a selection of random chunks to build up rocky formations.
Ah, so that's cool. So our dioramas are definitely going to look different, as Johnny's going with a larger mausoleum. And I'm presuming smaller pieces, whereas I've gone the other way around. I've gone small mausoleum and, well, bigger little pieces, if that makes sense. So with my little diorama, yeah, I want the floor to be, well, like a sort of a stony brickwork floor. As obviously the adventure is like leading up to where the, to where the dungeon entrance is going to sort of start. I'm kind of obviously seeing this more of a D&D sort of project, because I say I don't know anything about Elden Rings, so apologies now guys if anything I do here definitely goes against how the game looks, as yeah, I have no idea. So as you can see, I'm putting lots of watered PVA down to secure and sort of, well, protect and prime my stones. Probably a bit too much there, but hey ho, it's fun to make a mess. So obviously some bits are going to be 3D printed for this, and my usual go-to 3D printer, as we all know, the good old Uniformation GK2. That's exactly where I sort of printed out, well, all these lovely bits and pieces. And I'm not sure when you're watching this video guys, but check out GK2, the link down below, as obviously they are doing a Black Friday sale at the moment, and they are obviously selling their printers at a much reduced rate. If you're watching this a lot later than their Black Friday deals, don't worry, I do still have a link down below so you can get some money off. And the other thing I'm using here is the Siraya Tech resin. This is a real cool one, and obviously this is meant to be used at 20 degrees or above, and that's why I really love the GK2, as it preheats the bed, so it heats up the resin, which is cool because we are, well, obviously I'm in the UK and it's freezing at the moment. Yeah, we are getting temperatures of 0 and just below. Obviously I know a lot of countries are going to be like, well, that's their summer, but yeah, it's cold here, so having a heated printer definitely means I'm not going to get any failures and things are going to come out perfectly. So I can't wait to see how the other John's diorama comes out, as obviously these are going to be completely different from each other, which is going to be pretty cool to see. So here's my little 3D printed things. I say I've done a little dwarf here as my adventurer. Again, I don't know what the main characters are in any of these sort of games, but I just love dwarfs, so that's why I've gone for him. So in regards to the skeleton, in regards to all the little miniatures here, yeah, a bit of slap chop painting, keeping it nice and simple, nice and quick. And obviously this dude I am going to encase in some resin. Not something I've done before, but we'll have a go, as it should be fun. And again, this is where I love trying out new things. So sometimes, yeah, doing a brief that's given to you by someone else is sometimes the best thing you can do, because if you make something for yourself, you are probably going to stick to things, well, that you know. But yeah, having a brief where you're going to be doing things that you've never done before is a great way of coming out of your comfort zone and, well, just generally trying new things out, which, as we all know, I love trying new things out. So I'm sure John has 3D printed his bits. Yeah, let's pop over and see how he's getting on again.
So to use my time effectively, I printed everything I needed in the background yesterday so that I could sit down today and get everything painted. So here we have a walking mausoleum from CG Trader. We also have from Real Stone 2 Kari spooky hands, a whole heap of gravestones, some weapons, some little marionette soldiers. They're all from Real Stone on Patreon. Go sub to them if you want to print any kind of From Software stuff. They do a whole range.
So that definitely is funny to see John's mausoleum, well, the size of a brick, and mine is smaller than my fingernail. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see. So I've got my little skeleton in this little silicone mould, as this is going to be a nice easy way of, well, demoulding. So I'm using the J Diction High Gloss Epoxy Resin. Yeah, never used this stuff before, so we're going to give this a go. It seems simple enough. The one I've got is literally a case of one, well, there's 2 parts as you can see, but they're equal parts of each, which makes it nice and easy to sort of measure the both out, and then yeah, simply pour them into a container and give it a good old stir. You will see here I do make a bit of a mess up with this first one, and that obviously indicates there is going to be a second one of these. Yeah, so it's the first time I've really used this stuff, and obviously when you come to mixing it up, I think I mixed it up a bit too, well, vigorously, as in it got a lot of air bubbles in it when I mixed it up. And I thought they'd obviously just sort of clear out, because one thing it does say on the side of these bottles is it's bubble free, which is obviously pretty cool. But yeah, possibly not bubble free when you mix it like a nutter, and basically all you're doing is you're putting bubbles into it. So this is the first one. So yeah, obviously at this time I didn't realise this was going to get messed up. But again, it's one of these things where you live and you learn and you try things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And as always guys, whenever I do things and I cock up, I'm going to leave them in, just because it obviously shows you what I've done wrong, in the hope and aid that you possibly won't do the same thing. So yeah, as you can see, there are an incredible amount of bubbles in this, although a lot of them do disappear. So when it comes out, it's not as bad as it did look, but there are still, as you can see, a shed load of bubbles. So this was one of those moments where you sort of think, well, do I leave it as it is and use it but not be totally happy, as obviously I want this to be nice and clear, or do I spend the time again 3D printing, painting and doing this? And obviously, yeah, it is worth spending the time doing it again. So the next time I mix this stuff up, I didn't stir it as much. And the other thing I saw someone do was they said put it in a sort of a bowl of warm water, as this helps the bubbles sort of disappear, I guess. And yeah, that certainly did help. So again, this time it was stirring a little bit slower and letting the bubbles evaporate more before actually using this. So as you can see, yeah, they are disappearing. And so this is just in lukewarm water. So yeah, it definitely worked better this time. And then like last time, just a case of then pouring it into the mould. And as you can see, I've added that little plastic sort of divider at the bottom of my character, just because it'd be easier this time to have a flat base to put in the diorama. So again, I kind of like learnt a lesson from the last one that I didn't need it to be fully round, and yeah, just simply sticking a divider in gives it a nice flat bottom. So as you can see, it is pouring quite thick, and that's because again I left it in that warm water for a good 5 minutes or so, just so the bubbles evaporated even more. And yeah, this is one of those cases where it really was worth taking the time to repeat the steps I've just done, just to get the result that I was happy with. As I say, I could have used that first one, but I would have kept looking at it when the diorama was finished, and I'd have been kicking myself for not correcting my little mistake. So this stuff takes about sort of 24 hours, but what I've done is I've left it about 12 hours, and I kind of wanted to add in some sort of wrinkles and some cracks, just to make it look a bit more, well, like it's like frozen ice. So even though obviously I want it to be nice and clear and see-through, having these little sort of, I don't know, wrinkles in it, I guess, yeah, just help give it that little extra sort of ice look. Well, it does in my eyes anyway. And there we go, this time, yeah, one skeleton encased in, well, kind of ice that is clear. There are still some bubbles in there, so again, this is a case of me having to work on it and get it better. But yeah, as you can see from the two, yeah, big difference when you stir slower, and yeah, give the bubbles time to evaporate before using. So I have another product from J Diction, and this is Resin, eco water based, and this stuff is like plaster of Paris. So this is what I'm going to be using to, well, make all my sort of like rocky bits and pieces. I could just use a load of grout and mess about with that, but yeah, I fancy having a go at using something different. Again, I love trying new stuff out. So what I'm going to do here, as you can see, I've got some good old tin foil or aluminium foil, or yeah, I know you Americans say it a bit different from aluminium, but yeah, whatever you say. So I'm using that, obviously nice and crinkled, so this is going to give a nice rough texture. What I'm going to do, again, I'm going to use one of those silicone moulds that I've got, because I've got a variety of sizes, just because they're a nice way to sort of keep everything together. And this will also help me, well, not to make too much of a mess. As much as this sort of hobby is messy, yeah, I don't like making a mess, and if ever I do, I like to clean up as I go. So this stuff, really easy to use. There are directions on the side. The great stuff with this one is it only takes about 20 minutes to sort of fully cure, harden, which is really cool, because I do like things that work fast as well. It means that I can carry on and do bits and pieces. And again, this is why generally I do have like 3 or 4 projects on the go, because when I am waiting for something to dry or cure or harden or whatever it is, I can then be working, well, on something else. So this stuff is really easy to use. Yeah, a bit of water, a bit of the stuff, and then give it a good old stir. And in this case, yeah, I can stir this a lot more vigorously than the clear resin, as it doesn't matter about any air bubbles, as well, there probably shouldn't be. So yeah, good old stir, 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 and then just pour it in. And the great thing about using this silicone mould, I can make this, well, the depth of this as deep as I want or as thin as I want. Obviously, I'm not going to go too deep, because I want to make sure I can, well, break this stuff up once it has sort of fully cured. And as I said, the great thing with this is, yeah, 20 minutes later and it has cured, which is just wonderful. So I did have a little issue trying to get the silver foil off. Most areas it was fine, but obviously where I had crinkled it up, some areas had almost kind of been pinched by the resin crete. But yeah, good old perseverance, endurance, and just leaving it and going off and doing something else and then coming back to it. Yeah, I finally got all the silver foil off. So then we're left with this lovely little, well, textured sort of rocky face, which, again, nice, quick, cheap, easy, looks wonderful. And obviously this great thing about this is it's going to break just as easy. But then once I had made this, I kind of remembered I did actually buy, a long time ago, one of these like rubber sort of silicone, well, mould, doobry, whatsits for mountains. So yeah, had to get using that as well. Yeah, had a few of these break coming out. Again, I literally had left this sort of 15-20 minutes, as I was kind of eager to get these out. So yeah, these may have been taken out a bit too early, which is why they hadn't fully cured and they are cracking. But again, this doesn't matter because I'm going to use them as part of a rock face, so having them sort of, well, cracked and that doesn't really make any issues. So yeah, lots of these. Again, I think it's time we should check in with John and see what he's been up to.
Here I have a rock mould with some nice old plaster residue in it from another project. Grab some plaster powder, mix it in with some water to get a beautiful plaster flavoured Nutella, then pour this structural spread into a nicely cleaned rock mould. Hot tip, if you wash out your mould with washing up liquid, the soap water that's left over will help the plaster fill all the gaps so you don't get any bubbles in your mix. Then when it's dried we can pop them out of the mould and behold our beautiful boulders.
Well, it certainly looks like great minds think alike there, as yeah, we are doing a similar sort of thing, which is pretty cool. So yeah, again, I want to break mine up, but as you can see, this is where I don't like making a mess. I'm trying to put it into a little bag here, so when I do break it, all the mess and crumbs and bits and pieces are going to be in the bag and not all over my desk. Yeah, I know, I'm weird, I don't like making a mess, even though this hobby, a lot of it is about making a mess. So that didn't take long at all, and I got loads and loads of lovely little sort of rocky, craggy sort of bits. And yeah, it's simply a case of, well, just gluing them in. So say this diorama, I'm having it so it is almost looking like this area is sort of cut into the rock. Obviously a lot of this is going to be covered up with other stuff and definitely some snow at the end. But yeah, just loving how easy and quick you can make some sort of scraggy looking rocks. Obviously if I'd had like more foam or styrofoam stuff, I may have used that and tried to cut into it. But again, this is all a case of using what you've got to hand. So don't forget guys, I'm not like one of these big sort of studios that has a ton of money and a ton of stuff and storage. Yeah, I'm just a guy sitting at a desk with a couple of drawers full of bits and pieces. So obviously just making sure that my little Iceman can fit in. I'm going to have the rocks all behind him. So I'm going to pretty much cover most of this with the rocky area. And obviously the other sort of smaller mountain in the background there. So everything's in place. As you can see, lots of gaps everywhere. So one of my favourite things, and obviously you guys must know this by now, I love using grout. It is it's such a good filler. It hides a lot of errors in things you make, and obviously in this case, yeah, obviously there's a lot of gaps in between all these rocks, so this stuff's going to work perfectly. Normally I'd put stuff in and try and smooth it out, make it nice and neat, but obviously this is going to be rocks, so it doesn't need to be neat at all. All I need to do is just get it in there and fill in all the holes.
Then some hole filler will live up to its name and fill the holes. I'm going with the butter on toast spread technique, where you just dump a clump on and spread it out, hoping it don't split the bread.
Okay, so this is getting spooky now. Has he got a camera in here watching what I'm doing? As we are definitely doing similar things, although not too surprising, as obviously we're both building a diorama, and I guess what we're doing is the natural way of doing it. So my little guy, yeah, he's going to fit nicely there, and then obviously I'm going to build the cave around him. But before I put him in, I really want to paint sort of, well, the back bit of where he is, because obviously once he's in, I can't then paint the back of him. So yeah, I'm going to leave him out just for a second, and I'm going to go over all the rocks and stony bits, and as you can see there, I'm going to sort of do a bit of dry brushing with blue. And the reason I'm doing this is I've been watching lots of other YouTubers and how they make sort of snowy dioramas and make things look cold. And yeah, when you're going to do snow effects, you really want like a dark sort of, a dark backdrop for the snow to go on, just so it makes the snow stand out more. But the other thing I've noticed is if you're using blues, that also gives whatever you're doing a bit more of a cold feel. And as this is going to be like the Rocky Mountains, yeah, it's definitely going to be cold up here because obviously there's snow and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm hoping this will give it that sort of chilly feel. Well, time will tell. Again, I've never done this kind of thing before, so we can only mess about, have a go, and see what comes out. So the door itself, I'm going over some of the bits now with a bit of white, good old bit of dry brush in there, as I probably will use some speed paints just to do the front of the door area. And yeah, the sort of flooring as well, obviously giving that a good old white dry brushing, just as these are meant to be stones. Although I'm going to put a lot of snow over the bottom, but as I wasn't too sure exactly where the snow was going to sort of start and finish, I thought I would just do everything. So let's take another look and see how the other John's doing, and well, see if he's copying me again.
Once dried, I'm going to take a standard grey acrylic and blitz it all over. I'm going to do a big coat of it on the floor and do more of a dry brushing method and thinner coats on the actual cliff side, just to retain some of those darker shades in the cracks and the crevices. And also I'm just using thin coats on the plaster rocks as well, just being very aware they are different to the foam rocks and I don't want my paint to clog up the rocky textures.
Everyone loves a bit of dry brushing. So yeah, I'm really pleased how mine's come out, and say the little blue look to it I think is pretty cool. So my little dude now in his little ice sort of frozen he's glued in position, and it is now a case of adding some more of this this nice little rock stuff that I've made, putting that around the edge of him, and well, making him look more like he's inside a cave. As always guys, there are links down below to everything I use, so yeah, go and check out J Diction's range of stuff. As I say, they do make quite a few bits and pieces which are certainly good for, well, hobbyists like me. Reasonably priced, which is awesome, and yeah, great results once you know what you're doing with the stuff. As I say, I'm definitely going to be doing more of the sort of two-part epoxy resin, and yeah, definitely learn from my lessons there, or my mistakes there. Stir slower, give the bubbles a chance to sort of disappear, and then yeah, you will get some lovely bubble-free resin sort of doobry whatsits. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, moving on, let's crack on and get some painting done. Well, that's when I work out what I'm saying, and yeah, when I finish sort of putting these bits and pieces here, there and everywhere. So yeah, so for rock formations, I'm definitely going to be using the resin crete and my little tin foil sort of trick. As yeah, again, it's just great that you can make loads of this sort of stuff really cheaply, really quickly, and you make it nice and thin so you can just break it all up. And again, yeah, good old grout, that's just going to come along and fill in all those little nooks and crannies. That's if I can get any out of this stuff. So I do use a lot of this, and yeah, I suppose it's finally going. But yeah, so now moving on, we can crack on, do a bit of painting. And like before, I've gone with a black sort of base, and then some dry brushing with well, both those blues that I was using before, as I want everything to sort of tie in and look the same. Yeah, nice and simple, nice and quick, but I say I love how it comes out, and I'm really pleased that I did do this behind the skeleton, as well as clearly you can see through him and see the background bit. So I'm really pleased how he's coming along, and now to the bit that I've been kind of wanting to do since I started doing this diorama, and that's adding the snow. As I say, I've never really done any sort of snow dioramas or snow bases or well, snow effects of any kind. So I'm going to use two different snows. This first one I'm using, they're like little round, well, kind of like beads, but when I say beads, they're like minute beads. So for this, I'm going to got some PVA glue, and the plan here is to sort of sprinkle it on here, but have it so it goes on all the top areas. As I say, I want it to look like the snow's fallen down, landed on top. So yes, I'm going to put a lot of snow on this, but I still want to see some of the stonework through it, because that'll help, say, give the impression of it being the rocky sort of side of a face, as well as obviously the cold look from the blue coming through. Well, fingers crossed, that's what I'm going to try and achieve anyway. As the diorama is inside a box, it's difficult to get obviously the snow from the top, so I'm kind of, well, sort of fingering it in from the side, I guess. Well, madam, I don't know if that's the right kind of term to use, but you know what I mean. Yeah, finger it into all the nooks and crannies, and then the snow will be everywhere you want it and need it. Yeah, let's go and check in with John and see if he's got a better term for how you put the snow on.
So after giving the grass a few hours to dry, I'll spritz a bit of adhesive over it all and then just let the snow rain down all over it.
Ah, that does sound a better way of putting the snow on. So we've got the choices here, guys. You can let the snow rain down, or you can just finger it on, whichever floats your boat. So it's all on there. It's had a bit of a time to dry, so I'm going to use my little brush to sort of brush away any bits that are loose, as the plan is I don't really want any bits sort of falling off, well, once the diorama's completely done. So as I mentioned, I've got two different kind of snows. Although I've used the thicker one first, and now I'm going to use the fine one. Thinking back, I probably should have used the fine one first and then the thicker one. But again, this is all a learning curve for me, so maybe next time I will do it that way round. Although I'm still pleased at how the whole thing came out. So yeah, it was just a case then of doing a similar sort of thing with the much finer snow. And this one really is fine. It's almost like a sort of a talcum powder. It's yeah. So this should sort of fall and settle really nicely. So again, using good old PVA glue, just putting it here and there, trying to keep onto the tops, going over obviously some of the areas, or quite a lot of the areas where I've got the other snow. But yeah, we'll get the finer one on there. Again, this will probably help give it a more natural look, as there'll be sort of like two sort of gradients or types of snow. Some like nice powder stuff and then some, well, sort of thicker looking stuff. So rather than fingering this snow, I'm going to let it fall down or rain down, just like Jon Snow in his one. As, yeah, maybe raining down is the a more preferred term. Anyway, I think it looks great. Love the look of the snow. And yeah, I am definitely going to be making some more dioramas or even just some bases for some miniatures with some snowy glass frozen look effects. As, yeah, I'm loving doing this.
Now, you'll remember in Elden Ring that all over the cliffsides you get these massive gravestones which act as big chunky steps.
Nope, I didn't know that.
So I'll cut little rectangles out of the rock to slot the graves in to create some big steps. Let's get our Gribblies stuck in place. I have to dig up the snow and the grass in order to get the dudes properly stuck down, otherwise they'll just stick to the grass and the snow and they won't properly get secured down to the base.
This is where I love the fact that we both had the same brief, but come at this at completely different ways. And I say the scale of our sort of printed miniatures are, yeah, the complete opposite, which is great. And this is why I love these kind of collaborations. As, yeah, obviously we are, well, we're all hobbyists, but we all have different ideas and different thoughts on how we want things to sort of look and achieve that look, which is really cool. So as you can see, yeah, this diorama is pretty much done now, and I love how it looks. I love the fact that I've made it into a little frame there. The last couple of things I'm doing, funny enough, I did print out a couple of gravestones, just as the door that I printed out was kind of the door to what looked like a kind of a church. So yeah, having a couple of gravestones outside seems the thing to do. So just a case of simply gluing these down, and then I added some sort of snow over the bases just to make them, make them all look and sort of blend in with everything else. And then the last thing to pop in place was my teeny tiny mausoleum, which you can't even see because my fat hand, well, it's in the way. And there we go, that's my diorama all done and complete, and yeah, loving how it's come out. So back to the original drawing. Obviously this is what I originally drew up. As you can see, yeah, artistic skills lacking. But yeah, I managed to turn my drawing into this, which I think, yeah, looks remarkably the same, but hopefully better. If that makes any sense. So yeah, love the fact of building a diorama inside a photo frame. And again, for me, what I always sort of say is I do lack in a lot of space where I live. So not only is my desk obviously reasonably small for me to work out, once I do make something, I then don't have a lot of room to, well, to display it or put it anywhere. So this being having the options of being wall mounted or on a desk, I think is just ideal. So if you want to see the completed version of the other Jon's diorama, don't forget to check out the link down below and go and check out Dark Souls models, and you'll be able to see, well, see exactly how his one turned out, and obviously how different we've both managed to make our dioramas, even though they both started from the same brief. And also check out all the other wonderful videos he's got over there, as he is a great painter and, say, diorama maker. But yeah, back to mine, and yeah, so I'm really pleased how it's come out. Yeah, love the snow effect. Probably could have put even more snow on, and I think next time I would definitely put the finer snow on first, I think. I'm not sure. Guys, you tell me, which way round would you do the snow? The finer one, then the thicker one, or thicker or finer? Or would you do something completely different? Yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, what you thought of my my little piece here. And yeah, go and check out Jon's, and yeah, maybe rate them. I don't know. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? I don't know. Just like them both. Big shout out and thank you to my lovely patrons as well as my monthly sponsors for meaning I can continue to make these dioramas, have fun painting and just messing about, really. There's another video on the screen, guys. Give that a click, see more what I do. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave loads of lovely comments down below. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye for now.